Welcome to Profile Building, the podcast by Advance My Profile. Here, we talk about what it really takes to build a strong, defensible immigration profile, the evidence, the strategy, and the mistakes that decide whether a profile gets approved. Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine just handing the steering wheel of your entire career over to a manager, getting in the passenger seat, and knowing they can just kick you out on the side of the highway at any moment for the next 15 years.
Right.
That is essentially the reality we're looking at today. We are doing a deep dive into a brand new 2026 strategic guide that compares traditional employer-sponsored visas with self-petitioning. And, it's basically a masterclass in the critical difference between being dependent and being in control.
It really is. It truly is the defining choice of an immigrant professional's life. We aren't just talking about filling out, different government forms here.
Yeah.
We are talking about structural decisions that will dictate where you can live, where you can work, and just innovate for decades.
Right. And let's put some actual numbers to that, because looking at the April 2026 visa bulletin data, my jaw actually dropped.
Oh, yeah.
If you are an India-born professional applying for an EB-2 visa right now, you are facing a 15 to 20-year wait. The government is currently processing applications from January 1st, 2012.
It's staggering.
It is literally like standing in a 15-year line at the DMV, except your employer holds your ticket. And if they lay you off, you get sent all the way to the back.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is where that initial time actually goes before you even get a spot in that line.
Right.
Because when you go the employer-sponsored route, you hit a massive bottleneck right away called PRM.
Oh, right. The labor certification.
Exactly. It's the Department of Labor's mandatory certification process. To protect domestic workers, the employer has to legally prove they couldn't find a single qualified U.S. worker for your exact job.
Which takes forever.
Oh, totally. They have to run specific advertisements, wait for responses, and just document everything. That administrative hurdle alone eats up 6 to 18 months. And there's no premium processing to speed it up.
So it's basically this slow-motion administrative nightmare just to get to the starting line.
Pretty much.
But this guide points out that self-petition pathways, like the EB-1A for extraordinary ability, or the EB-2 NIW, which is the national interest waiver, they skip that bottleneck completely, right?
Exactly, because those specific categories are based on your individual merit or, how your work directly benefits the United States. They bypass that PRM process entirely.
Okay, wow.
And crucially, for India-born professionals right now, the EB-1 category is currently current, meaning visas are available. So instead of that 15 to 20-year purgatory, you're looking at a wait time closer to just 2 to 4 years.
Okay, I get the timeline advantage, but surely it's not as bleak on the employer side as it sounds. The system does have built-in rules like AC-21 portability, right?
Well, yes and no.
Because if I'm stuck in that 15-year line, I thought I could eventually, switch jobs or even start my own company without losing my spot.
People rely really heavily on that assumption, but AC-21 is a highly conditional and frankly fragile safety net.
Sure.
First, it only kicks in 180 days after your I-140 is approved. And the I-140 is the actual immigration petition your employer files to validate your skills.
Right.
If you leave or get fired on day 179 after that approval, your employer can withdraw the petition. And if they do, you lose your priority date, which is essentially your timestamp, your hard-earned place in that 15-year line.
Oh, wow. So it's like being given a parachute, but the instructions say you're only legally allowed to pull the cord if the wind is blowing exactly east, and only after you've been in free fall for 3 minutes.
That is a perfect way to put it. And even if you do successfully deploy that parachute, meaning you wait out the 180 days, AC-21 strictly requires your new job to be in a same or similar occupational classification.
I see.
And it is an incredibly subjective judgment by an immigration officer. You cannot simply pivot from, say, biomedical research to running business development for a med tech startup.
Because it's not the same.
Right. During the massive tech layoffs from 2022 to 2024, tens of thousands of professionals lost their priority dates exactly because of this. Their petitions were dependent on employers who abruptly let them go, and they just couldn't find perfectly matching same or similar roles fast enough.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting, because the traditional logic is that employer sponsorship is free, right? The company's lawyers handle the paperwork, the company pays the filing costs.
Right, that's what people think.
But the hidden cost is your total loss of career leverage.
Yeah.
You are financially handcuffed to that specific role, whereas self-petitioning, on the other hand, costs roughly $5,000 to $12,000 out of pocket for legal and government fees. But what you are really buying is absolute career autonomy.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the logical question is, well, why doesn't everyone just self-petition and buy that freedom?
Yeah, why wouldn't they?
It usually comes down to the profile gap, or rather, the perception of a profile gap. People hear EB1A, extraordinary ability, and they immediately assume they need a Nobel Prize, an Oscar, or, a massive Wikipedia page.
Right, the imposter syndrome kicks in hard. They think, I'm just a really good senior software engineer. I don't have international awards.
Exactly. But the legal standard doesn't require a Nobel Prize. In reality, a mid-career researcher who has accumulated 50 citations or a senior engineer who commands a top quartile salary and plays a critical role in their organization's success can often qualify.
Wait, really?
Yes, it's not about being famous. It's about systematically documenting that you are at the top of your specific niche field. You can often qualify without any academic publications at all if you have other strong objective evidence.
So, what does this all mean? I guess ultimately it comes down to shifting your mindset from being a passive passenger to an active driver in your immigration journey. Tying your status to an employer feels easy up front, but it forces you to surrender control over your professional growth. Self-petitioning gives you back your leverage, your mobility, and frankly, your peace of mind.
I couldn't agree more. The gap we see isn't usually a lack of actual talent. It's an evidence gap. It's simply knowing how to strategically package the achievements you've already earned into a language the immigration system understands.
Yeah, which leaves us with a totally different question to chew on. We talked about how strict the government is with AC-21 and forcing you to stay in the same or similar job for years.
Right.
But as artificial intelligence fundamentally rewrites what daily work looks like, automating coding, writing, and research, how is a rigid 20th century immigration bureaucracy possibly going to define same or similar a decade from now when the job you were sponsored for doesn't even exist anymore?
That is a fascinating point.
Definitely something to think about. If you spent the next 18 months deliberately building your professional profile, instead of passively waiting on a PRM application, could you completely rewrite your own career timeline?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow the podcast for more useful content. Catch you next time.